So when I, 24 female, was like 8, I broke a vase that was precious to my stepmom. I don't think she ever liked me, and she was basically like, to my dad, it's her or me. I thought for sure my dad would choose me because I was so close to him. But that night he told me I was going to grandma's. I honestly didn't believe it until I got there, and he left. And I guess that just changed something in me. He phoned every day and tried to see me every day. And at first I pretended to be happy, but I wasn't because I wasn't home. I stopped pretending pretty fast, and looking back I acted numb to him, like not angry or sad, just emotionless. I sometimes heard him complain to my grandma about me acting so differently than before. When I was 9, I told my mom I wanted to move in with her full-time because I had just started hating phone calls and visits from my dad. Even though she had a tiny apartment, she said yes. Honestly, I slept in the same bed as her till I moved in with my fiance. I don't care though because she's my mama, and it was better than having my own room and dealing with him every day. My mom and I have become super close, and she enrolled me in after-school stuff so I could avoid my dad. And contact just ended, and I'm thankful for it because I didn't have to be there for him. Like a few years ago, stepmom gave birth, and there was a big celebration, and I'm so happy I'm nowhere in sight and haven't even seen the kid yet. I'd only seen him on birthdays or when they came to grandma's house when I was there. My fiance had a low-key proposal a week ago, and I told my mom, my uncle, mom's cousin, and my grandma. Now my grandma knows how little I talk to my dad and how out of the loop I keep him, so it was a surprise when I got a phone call from my dad inviting me to a family dinner so I could introduce my fiance and meet my baby brother. I made up an excuse because screw that. It was grandma who told him, and I got mad at her and ended up yelling at her for telling my dad that I was going to get married. I got a text from my dad like an hour ago, which chastised me for taking out my issues with him on grandma. I hate to say it, but he may be right about that. So he shipped you off to grandma's because he couldn't be bothered with you, and now he wants to play happy family? Nope. All you need to say is that you and your fiance, congrats by the way, have no interest in having dinner with the man who chose his wife over his child because of a broken vase. And we're not going to even go into the fact that stepmother got away with such an ultimatum in the first place. He made his bed, and now he can lie in it. No joke. As a father myself, there's no way I'd pick a girlfriend over my young child for any reason. But a stupid vase? I'd have given myself a hernia laughing her butt out the door the moment "you better choose" passed her lips. It sounds like dad and stepmom deserve one another and not much else. To be honest, I'd be tempted to get a Goodwill vase and send it to them in some way that's crappy, like with a note that says, "Don't worry about missing the wedding. You can walk this vase down the aisle anytime you want." Or maybe send them a photo of the vase wearing a wedding veil or something. If OP is Jewish, maybe she and her fiance could send him a video of them smashing vases in a wedding style. OP, can't you send a vase to your dad and stepmom to congratulate them on the baby with a card? I hope your new baby doesn't break anything too nice. Grandma's getting too old to raise any more of your kids. You chose your wife over a little child. That was the day I stopped being your daughter. Please don't contact me again because I have no desire to have a relationship with you. It's profound and beautiful. OP, please do this. Also, apologize to your grandma, but reinforce to her the idea that you are non-contact with your father after he abandoned you for his new family. If she tells your father anything after that, stop telling her things until she gets the idea. I have 2 tween sons with my ex. We broke up over several issues. One of them was Emily, a woman he had worked with for years. The 2 of them grew very close, and she had always told me that my ex deserved better than me, and that I was trying to steal his family away from him. A few times she even pretended to be his wife during work functions, and my ex would laugh them off. Also, he was terrible with money and other stuff. After we separated, he made things official with Emily, which came as no surprise to me. Emily was even more hostile when she realized my ex's family still liked me and would still include me. When she realized my boys weren't super happy she was their dad's new girlfriend, Emily actually called my ex's mom names for saying I was the best mom, when they were all having a family dinner. My ex got a firm warning from the judge about using Emily to do exchanges of our boys and to deal with custody issues. This was after she confronted me several times during exchanges in front of my children, and of her showing not just hostility, but saying things that could be taken as alienation of a parent. He continued to allow this, and X was fined for breaching the judge's orders. He was told if it happened again, custody would be modified. Recently, there's been an increase in anger toward me. Emily's unable to have children, and she wants the boys to consider her a mom. They've asked me for help, and I said no. That Emily was not the mother of my children, and I wasn't going to encourage them to consider her one after the years of verbal abuse from her. The boys had an award night in June at school, and while there, Emily told the boys to get in photos with her for the school newsletter. They said no. She told them she wasn't asking. They said she wasn't their mom, so she couldn't say that. My ex scolded the boys, but I said nothing. X and Emily said I should have backed them up and not allowed disrespect. I told them that what they said was not disrespectful. They've claimed I'm a bad parent and I shouldn't have let my kids get away with that. And I'm teaching them to disrespect women, etc. So now I'm here to find out. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. They stated facts. Also, hilarious that they're compliant about not showing disrespect. Does this behavior qualify going back to get the custody modified in your favor? Because honestly, your boy's mental health will be continuously harmed by these two idiots. She's not their mother, and they aren't substitutes or stand-ins because she has fertility issues. They're kids, and all she and your ex will do is alienate them and permanently damage their relationship with your boys if they don't learn to back off. What happens behind closed doors when they're at his place, when no one's there to protect them? Would your ex protect your sons or his new wife? You do realize they had an emotional affair, at least. How deluded are Emily and your ex? This is exactly how most kids feel about their dad and his affair partner turned girlfriend. They're never going to accept her as their mom. As for her stating that she wasn't asking, in other words, she was ordering them, their response was correct. She's not their mother, therefore she cannot order them that way. Emily's not their mother. That's a fact. She will not have a motherly role in their lives by being hostile to their mother. X is a fool. He'll allow his wife to cost him his kids in their hearts and in the courts. You need to tell him that. Tell him that she'll only make parental decisions with him and that none will involve her being a mother. If she wants kids, they better adopt because she's not getting yours. I, 55 male, have two daughters, Laura, 30, and Sarah, 19. They're 10 years apart because my wife, 54, had fertility issues. This age gap is relevant. Laura has a PhD in psychology, and my wife and I are very proud of her. However, Laura tries to keep little to no contact with us. This is because of her upbringing. I do admit that my wife and I have been especially harsh on her. When Laura was starting high school, she began to distance herself from us and often refused to spend time with us. Soon we learned through her counselor that Laura hated us for how we treated her. When Sarah was born, my wife and I talked about how we would raise her. We decided to treat her the opposite of how we did to Laura. Whenever Sarah acted up, we encouraged her to do better and not give in to being a bad person. I admit that Sarah had a more uncomplicated childhood, which has caused Laura to resent her, my wife, and me for that. When Sarah began high school, problems arose. Disrespect, lies, etc. We had no idea where this came from, but we would put up with it because she was a teenager. Laura and Sarah kept excellent grades, so we assumed we would both be well off. Sarah's last year of high school, she began to act up. It got worse and worse, but we still didn't do anything because we didn't want her to hate us as Laura did. Fast forward to now. Sarah is 19 and in university. Laura's making lots of money due to her job. Recently, Sarah got into trouble because she attempted to flirt with one of her professors and sent him inappropriate pictures. My wife and I decided we'd had enough, and we yelled at her for what she did. In the following days, I would often tell Sarah how respectful and successful Laura was. One day I told her I should have raised her how Laura was raised, and she snapped. She yelled that I mistreated Laura during her childhood, that she couldn't give a crap about my wife and me, and that I showed favoritism toward one daughter over the other, and that my comments hurt her because she believed we were good parents. Additionally, she admitted that she started acting rudely to us because Laura gave her a journal that she wrote in high school. In that journal, she wrote about how we would punish her and why she was being punished. She then proceeded to run up to her room crying. My mother just sent me a huge text, disowning me for how I mistreated Laura and raised Sarah. My relatives all hate me just because Sarah was upset that I showed favoritism to Laura over her. I raised Sarah with love, but she treats me terribly for it, and my wife and I feel like I'm justified for what I did. So, am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You even met with her school guidance counselor and didn't change? In all these years of raising children, you never looked for any advice on how to parent, read a book on parenting, asked someone's friends? Your problem is you're a terrible parent. It's not about favoring one child over the other. I suspect your relationship with your children is not a repairable problem. Get some help. Something doesn't add up here. Your kids are 10 years apart, and you decided when Sarah was born to attempt a different parenting style. So Laura was about 10 years old, right? Yet you only learned in her high school years that she resents how you raised her. Does that mean that there is at least a 3 to 4 year period where you were knowingly applying 2 different parenting styles to 2 different kids? Poor Laura, whose only fault was being your firstborn. Here's what stands out to me as the worst. OP was doing the lenient parent act with his second daughter, but didn't stop being a rigid parent with his then 10-year-old first daughter, whom he continued to punish severely through high school. Yes, you are the idiot, OP, for not seeking therapy the moment you realized Laura hates you. Instead, you had another when you were never mentally prepared for any. This reads like something from the 1950s. You sound incredibly oblivious as to what makes humans happy and live fulfilling lives. Stop focusing on grades, money, status, and other earthly goods. Focus on your family's well-being and mental health. I, 24 female, am engaged, and we're in the stage of organizing the fine details of our wedding. It's a big event since my husband and I have large families, and the last few months have been hectic. However, the person making it the most stressful is, ironically, my mother. Despite me being an adult, she still feels the need to run my life and have a say in everything I do. She believes that physical appearance should be the most important thing to all women, and that not having a good body and not putting in effort in makeup, skincare, etc., is a sign that a woman has no self-respect. Growing up, I had many issues with my body image due to her, to the point where I was hospitalized for 6 months from an eating disorder. While I physically recovered years ago, I'm still very self-conscious about my body. For example, my wedding dress fitting was yesterday, and my mother had talked about it since I announced our engagement because she wouldn't want me to look fat on my wedding day. She constantly would tell me what to and what not to get in a dress, even showing me pictures and saying things like, "Don't get a dress like this. It'll make your stomach more noticeable." I'm very open to advice, but what she's doing isn't helpful, and she knows it. I lied about the fitting date to her, and when I went yesterday, I took only my maid of honor and a few bridesmaids. They all knew to keep it a secret, and the fitting went great. It wasn't until I got home that I got a call from my mother. A distant friend had seen us leave the shop and mentioned something to my mother, not knowing it was a secret. She was furious, saying I would look like a pig while walking down the aisle now, and that I was a self-centered brat who not only didn't invite, but actively lied to her about when the fitting was. I thought my family would back me up, but several of them said that while it was understandable I didn't want to invite her, I was an idiot for lying to her, which made me wonder if I was so wrong for lying. Not the idiot. She said you'd look like a pig? What? That's crazy. I'm honestly at a loss for words. Everyone gets super emotional during these times, but wow. Instead of Bridezilla, it's Momzilla. I suggest you lie about the wedding date as well, maybe even the location. Honestly, I'd be lying about my phone number and address. OP, your family does not grasp how awful your mother is and is basing their views on how a non-abusive mother should be treated. When you're dealing with an abusive parent, Doing what you need to do to live a normal life is necessary and should be encouraged. You go, girl. I'm sure you will look lovely at your wedding. Just imagine what the mother will be like if OP gets pregnant and gains weight, or even worse, after she gives birth and is exhausted and in pain in caring for the infant. How long do you think it'll take for mom to drop so when is all the baby weight coming off? Don't you think it's about time? OP, time to uninvite your mom from the wedding. Time to uninvite your mom from your life. You don't need that toxic behavior influencing your marriage, and especially not your children. Your mother is abusive. She's so abusive that she caused you to get an ED, resulting in hospitalization, and she still won't quit. You will never be the idiot for protecting yourself. I, 37 male, am single, child-free, and have 2 dogs, German Shepherd mixes. They're very well behaved and super nice. My nibblings, aged toddler and tween, love them. I have 4 sisters and they have 10 kids total, so I babysit a lot. I work from home and am always available to watch the older ones, since I can easily work while they're in my apartment, and when they need care for the little ones, I move my schedule around a bit. Yesterday, 4 of my nibblings were at my place. I have just one super strict rule at my house: no chocolate. It's deadly for dogs. I'm not too fond of it anyway, and kids can easily go an afternoon without it. The older ones brought chocolate with them and shared it with the toddlers. I was in the kitchen making them drinks, and they were in the living room. My dogs were sleeping on the balcony. I entered the living room, and there were chocolate crumbs everywhere. I asked who had the chocolate, and the kids admitted that mom gave it to them, and they always had some with them but usually eat it in secret. When my sister came to pick them up a few hours later, I told her what happened and said that her kids were big enough not to make a chocolate mess. I told her I was never babysitting for her again. She's furious and says I overreacted. Another sister of mine agrees with her. Finally, my mother thinks I'm wrong for putting my dogs before the children. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You have one simple rule and she broke it and made her kids hide it. They also clearly aren't big enough to not make a chocolate mess since there were crumbs on your floor. And it looks like your mom has volunteered to babysit for free. Thanks, Mom. Problem solved. Additionally, I would not babysit children taught to lie to me. OP, if they argue about the kids being responsible enough not to make a mess, or argue that that much chocolate can't hurt dogs, or argue about you being child-free, don't engage. Say, that's not the point. I can't babysit kids who are regularly taught to lie to me. It isn't safe. Be a broken record. That's the real problem, way bigger than sneaking chocolate. OP, focus on this when discussing your reasoning. Yes, what a role model. Want to get what you want? Lie. There's one tiny rule and the sister needs a babysitter. I would go crazy if I were OP and needed to play daycare that often. Why would I be so dumb and break this rule on purpose? Why do these kids need chocolate 24/7? And you're not putting the dogs before the kids. Your sister's putting chocolate before your dogs. People get so entitled. You don't owe her childcare. You do it because you love her and her kids. It's not a right, it's a privilege.